Hey everybody, welcome back to Winship's Electronics Repair. Today on this episode of Workbench Chronicles, we have an iPhone 11 that is in for a new screen replacement. And while they were here, we're also going to go ahead and put a new battery in there for them as well. The issue with this one, you will notice that everything looks fine. However, press the power button here, LCD comes on just fine, not a single crack in sight. However, as you can see, our LCD is completely defective. We'll do this here. Again, nothing, absolutely nothing at all. Several attempts have been made to hard reset the phone. For the first couple times, that did get a bit of a reaction out of it, but it is no longer doing that. So, with that being said, we got our parts here. We're going to go ahead and dive into this repair. First things first, got to remove those pentalobe screws. Okay, now with these pentalobe screws removed, we're going to go ahead and, because they're opening it up, we're going to go ahead and bring in the heat mat. So just bear with me a moment here and I'll go ahead and grab that. Okay, now that we got the heat mat back over here, we're just going to go ahead and get this plugged in. We're going to get some heat onto this phone. Turn her on. Heat settings come on automatically. Set to phone. Set that on there. And now we wait. I'll be right back the moment that we get some proper heat on this and we'll be good to go. Okay. I do believe now we have enough heat here in the phone, so I can feel the heat on the back of the phone, which means that we have plenty of heat in the phone there to go ahead and get this adhesive off. So we're going to get this heat mat out of my way here. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead, grab our trusty razor blade here. We're going to go ahead, like we always do, straight in between the plastic and the metal frame. You will feel your razor blade click in, and you're just going to apply pressure straight up and you'll hear that adhesive break. And we're just going to go ahead and do that all the way around the phone. Okay, so we got this opened up here. She just opens up like a book. Our next step, while the adhesive is still hot, is going to be to remove as much of it as we can. Okay, now that we have that adhesive removed from the frame, our next task is going to be opening up this plate here. There's 3 tri-head screws, and that's going to be for our battery connector. So before we unconnect anything else, we got to get this open. So with this open, we have our battery connector, which is just right here. So we're just going to go ahead and pop that off, just like that. Next, we're going to move on to this large plate here, which is going to be hiding the connectors for our earpiece speaker and Face ID module, as well as all the connections for our screen as well. Okay, so with those screws connected, this plate pops right off, and we can set that aside. So these connections we need to pop is this one here, which is our earpiece speaker. And we also need to go ahead and pop the connections for our display. Just like that. So for now we can go ahead and we can set this aside until we're ready to put the new battery in and reassemble everything. So our next step is going to be removing this earpiece speaker here and Face ID module. So for this particular one on the iPhone 11, we have two Phillips here, another one here, and then we also have another tri-wing right up here as well. So we'll go ahead, we'll get that tri-wing out of here first. And now we move on to the Phillips. Okay, so with those screws removed, this is nice and loose, and it should come right up. There is actually going to be a metal connector right down here as well. Right, so that pops right up and unfolds. Here we have a little metal plate. Just go ahead, grab a pair of tweezers if you have them. And this will just come right out. Just be careful, that is thin metal, so you may break it, which obviously you don't want to do. So here we have some proximity sensors, Face IDs, and microphone as well. So we're just going to want to go ahead and start prying at these gently. Don't want to break anything because these are all really delicate modules. Okay, perfect. So that is disconnected, so just go ahead and we're going to set this aside for now. So, it is at this point in the repair that with the new screen, we have a transferable IC chip. So this chip soldered onto this screen can be transferred over to this screen, which we are going to do. The reason that we would want to transfer these is because this little chip here is what is basically this screen's signature. This will help, or I guess this will make the iPhone recognize it as the original screen, which will give you all the original functionality, and it'll also remove that error that says non-genuine parts, so it will not know the difference. Since that is a bit of a process, I am going to go ahead and leave that into another video. So I will be right back once we have that completed. Okay, so we were unfortunately not able to finish the IC transfer on this particular phone. The IC chip from the old display did get irreversibly damaged in the transfer process, which is unfortunately something that can happen when you're dealing with such small electronics. So, with that being said, that does not affect the key functionality of this display. So, we're now going to go ahead and get the rest of this finished up. So, next we got to get this piece back on. Everything is going to go right back in place just the way it came out. Okay, so we got everything clicked right into place here now. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and bring back this teeny tiny little metal clip, and we're going to go ahead and get that in place. Okay, so now with that in place, we're going to go ahead and get these screws back in. Remember, you got the tiny tri-wing up here, and then the rest were Phillips. Okay, so with those screws on, this screen is effectively ready to go back into the phone. Now, since we are going to be doing the battery replacement as well, we're going to go ahead and move on to that. With the battery replacement, I don't know how well you'll be able to see them, but there's 3 pull tabs here on the bottom, as well as 3 pull tabs up on the top. Now, this is for some tearaway adhesive that is supposed to make this replacement a little easier. Now, the unfortunate part about most of this adhesive is that it's going to rip right away. But let's go ahead and get the battery out one way or another. Okay, so as you can see, adhesive not working. So what we're going to do is we're just going to bring some heat and apply it to the back of the phone, roughly where the battery is, just to get that adhesive softened up a bit. Okay, so now we got this adhesive all cleaned up here, old batteries out, we're perfectly ready for the new one. So now we're just going to go ahead and bring the new one in. Normally we have a little bit of a different adhesive on the back of these, but however, this one shipped to me without that adhesive on it. So I had to, honestly, we'll call it jerry-rig a bit of a solution. So, go ahead. I always like to clip this connection into place, and then we will actually so with this battery as well, we're also going to be using what we call a battery tag-on flex. Essentially what this is, it's a little teeny tiny cable with some chips on it that will basically trick the phone into thinking this is a Apple original battery, and that way we can still have our the ability to have our battery health indicators. Okay, now with the screen adhesive on here, we just have to go ahead and reassemble. Yes, I did get ahead of myself. Yes, I did have to disassemble the phone again. That is not too big of a deal. Once you've done it once, do it a million more times. Okay, so with all these screws in, everything nice and tight, we're going to go ahead and do just one final boot test here to make sure that everything is going to come up the way that she should. And because this battery's still a little low, I'm just going to give it a little bit more juice while we do that. Perfect. So everything's come on, we still have our touch functionality, and now we're all good to just go ahead and get everything nice, sealed up, and clipped in. Sometimes we will end up with clips that are slightly bent. You're just gonna give a little pressure in, and then they'll go right down into place. Perfect. So if we go ahead, look at this here now, everything is all in place as she should be. Screen is wholly responsive, so that is great. Perfect. Everything's all good. So with that being said, that concludes this episode of Workbench Chronicles. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching, and please leave a comment. Other than that, we're all done here. So that concludes this episode. Don't worry, I know the pentalobe screws are there. I will put those in, I promise. You guys, stay beautiful and keep smiling. Have a wonderful day, everyone.